John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Today I'm going to be testing two more fixed blade broadheads. And these are heads that I've actually been shooting for a while. I've shot them out at the target range many times, and I've taken them out in the field. I've taken hogs with both of them, but I realized I'd never done a video test of them, much to my dismay. Okay, I'm sorry for not having done that, but that is the Afflictor fixed heads. Okay, so the Afflictor fix. So here I've got the K2 and then I've got the EXT. They're similar, but obviously they have different specs. But these heads are really interesting. You've seen, if you followed me, you've seen I really am a big fan of the Afflictor hybrids. I've taken deer, turkey, and hogs with them. They've always performed really well. They fly great, they penetrate deep, they hold up well, they inflict a lot of damage in animals. So I like those. And so they sent me some of these fixed blade heads, and I was like, well, I really like the hybrids. But then when I started shooting these, I thought, man, I really like these too, okay? Some of the things that stand out about them, first of all, Afflictor is just a fantastic company, okay? There's a lot of good companies in the archery business. These are really great guys. Their passion for testing, their ethics, they're faith-based. I really like Afflictor and all they're coming out with. And they've got some cool new innovations that are coming out that some of it they share with me, some of it they don't, but I'm excited to see even more. So these heads you may look and just go, okay, they're just like normal four-blade, fixed-blade heads. And yeah, they are, but there are some unique things about them. First of all, you notice with the K2, it's got a super short, low-profile design. That's why it flies so extremely well. This I put up there with any fixed blade head as it being the very best flying fixed blade head. There's several that I put in that category that just are top of the food chain in terms of long distance flight. This one is one of those. The EXT flies very well, but at super long ranges, it's not quite as good as the K2, and that's just because there's more surface area. You can see the total length is greater, and the blades come across straight at the bottom, whereas these kind of flare up a little bit. So with less surface area, you're going to get better flight like that. But beyond that, some of the things that make it unique, the blades themselves are extremely thick, okay? They're 420 stainless steel, so they're a decent stainless steel, but beyond that, they're really thick. A lot of fixed blade heads, kind of the standard is 0.030 or 0.035 inches thick. I really like how the Exodus has 0.040 inches of thickness. These are 0.059 inches thick. That's impressive. That's really thick. All four of the blades are, and both of the models, are 0.059 inches thick. Then the tip itself, okay, it uses a unique tip. It's not like a chisel tip like others. It's not like a true quote-unquote cut on contact tip, though it does cut on contact, but it's really thick. It's actually double the thickness of the blades themselves. It's 0.125 inches thick. Okay, so this tip is 0.125 inches thick. With that thickness, what that translates into is two things. First of all, durability, but then second of all, it's going to make a really thick cut through the animal. And I found that if penetration, of all things being equal, if penetration is equal, the thicker the blade, the harder it is for that wound channel to close up, and the better the blood trail is going to be. That's why these things have performed so well for me in the field and drawn such good blood trails. So because of that thickness. Then some other things that are unique about them is if you look really closely, the top of the cross blade, okay, not the main blade, but the top of the cross blade on both of them is actually horizontal for a little bit. It goes horizontal for a little bit and then at an angle. Horizontal and then at an angle. And that's not an accident. And you may look at that and say, well, that's going to impede penetration. Actually, what they found is just the opposite. In all their testing, they were surprised to see it. That sometimes what really happens just kind of defies what you would think in the laws of physics. They found that the penetration through bone is actually improved by having a little bit of horizontal cut like that. And then it's able to breach the bone. It pushes the bone out of the way more effectively with that angle as well. So they found that it penetrates better with that. I'm interested to see how it does in my own testing. Also, you notice that there's a lot of weight forwardness in this design with that extra thick tip and with the cross blades being moved up on both of them, that allows there to be a greater FOC, okay? Compared to other heads that have similar dimensions, this one's gonna have more weight toward the end. That's gonna aid in forgiveness in flight, and it's also gonna aid a bit in penetration. So there's really some unique things. Oh, and I will add that the ferrule is aluminum. I'm not typically a big fan of aluminum unless it's this kind of aluminum. It's 7075 T6 grade aluminum. So that aluminum is stronger than many steels. I haven't had any problems with it in the field. We'll see how it does in the testing today. So because of the weather, I'm not going to shoot it at long ranges outside. I'm in the middle of a blizzard here in Iowa, and the temperatures aren't going to get above zero for a long time, and there's a lot of snow out there, and I've already shot them at longer ranges. So I know this one is absolutely fantastic. Again, best of the best. In the very best category at longer ranges. I'm giving this a 10 in terms of flight. I'm giving this a 9. It does really well out to like 60 yards. It's a little more touchy beyond that. I can still pop balloons at 80 yards, but I have to really focus on it. This flies about like an Exodus. This flies like an ATAC or like an Iron Will original. Okay, like a Bishop Holy Trinity. Very, very good flying. So I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to do the water bag test because it would freeze. It's below zero outside right now, and I would freeze, and so would the water. But you can figure out how it's going to do in terms of draining an animal like that, just in terms of the amount of tissue being displaced by the cut size, by the blade thickness, and by the ferrule thickness. These are going to make some pretty nice wound channels in animals. But what I am going to do is I'm going to test for penetration, durability, and edge retention. And the way I'm going to do that is with the mediums I'm using in 2020. First, I'm going to be using the 1/2 inch layer of MDF surrounded by 1/3 inch layers of rubber foam matting. It's going to go through that and into my Clear Ballistics clear gel. It's made by Clear Ballistics. It's really cool because you can see exactly what the Broadhead is doing in the gel, and I'll measure the penetration, and we're doing that with all the heads that I test this year so you can see how they penetrate in head-to-head comparisons, and I'll put a spec sheet at the end of this video that will show that, and I'll do that with all of my videos so you can see what those specs are and compare them. Then I'm going to be shooting them through 22 gauge steel plate, and the way I'm doing that is I'm going to shoot it through the steel plate as many times up till 5 until the blades really start to get damaged. When the blades start getting damaged, that's when I'm going to stop. And that's each time I can shoot them without any significant damage, then I'm going to give it 2 points for that. And the maximum they'll get is 10 points. The maximum is 5 shots. You saw with the Iron Will, for example, I shot that. They never got damaged. Okay, I probably could have done it 20 times and they wouldn't have got damaged. That's with A2 steel, really great steel. With this being 420, I would imagine it's not going to hold up that well, but we'll see. For each of my tests this year, I'm going to be using my Bowtech SR6 on the comfort setting, set at 72 pounds, 27 inch draw. I'm using Bishop FOC King arrows. They're 460 grains, nocturnal nocks, and then I use fobs. And so that's going to be the standard for all of my tests, hopefully, so there's a consistency in comparing all the heads that I test in 2020. Let's see how they do. Here you can see the penetration of the two, and as expected, the one with a smaller cut penetrated more deeply than the one with the larger cut, though it wasn't by much. The EXT here at the bottom penetrated 8 1/4 inches, and the K2 at the top penetrated 7 3/4 inches. First we'll go with the K2, and then we'll go with the EXT, and I'll just keep rotating them like that. Here's the holes that the two Broadheads make in that 22 gauge steel plate. And you can see the ones at the bottom are by the K2, the ones on the top, the EXT. Man, those K2s really punch a big hole. I mean, you can see why they would open up a big hole in an animal. It's just, that wound is not going to easily close up. Really, really impressed with that. As for the blades themselves, I shot each of them 3 times into the steel plate, and examined them each time. And they made it to the third one, but I called it after the third shot because the blades were getting pretty mangled there. I mean, they're still in place. It's not like they bent way out of shape or anything like that, but they're definitely getting nicked up enough that I go, okay, I'm going to call it there. So 3 shots through the steel plate at that range, pretty impressive. And you will notice that the tip, that really thick tip, is just like brand new. I mean, that did not move at all. And that's what really matters the most when it's going into an animal. So really impressed with that. Those blades are replaceable. And so, they would need to be replaced. But they'll get a score of 6 because 3 times shot into the steel plate. And then it was actually the same for the EXT. So you can see the blades there getting pretty nicked up, and you can see those cross blades there getting a little flared out, a little bent out of shape, and again, the tip just pristine. Okay, so what do you think about the Afflictor fixed blade heads? They're really something to consider. I know there's a lot of fixed blade heads on the market, and there's a lot of really good ones, and different ones have different strengths. I'd say between these two, my favorite is the K2. This thing is one stout little head, okay? And because it's so thick, and because it has that 2.125 inches of cut and still penetrates really well, this is a performer. And again, on the hogs that I've taken with it, it's done really well. Actually, in the field, I'd say it does better on animals than it shows even in the testing. But they're both really good heads for flight, for total cut size, and for damage being inflicted. I go with the K2, but both of them are really good heads. Great job, Afflictor. Check these out.